senhor. Uma pessoa casada. Você pode filmar o que você quiser, até pode pôr na internet.
Vou pôr.
Pode pôr, à vontade. Olha aqui a minha carinha. Pode pôr na internet.
Vou pôr no jornal também, é uma desproteção.
Sua porca, vai para a sua terra, sua porca. Você não entende a você, eu sou portuguesa de raça. Eu sou portuguesa de raça. Você que é brasileira, vai para a sua terra. Estão a invadir Portugal, esta raça portuguesa.
Isto não é possível.
Have you ever heard someone say that foreigners aren't worth it? That they're only here to take advantage? But do these people know that much of Portugal's own wealth was built on exploiting other countries? Today we're diving into a controversial but necessary topic. We'll explore Portugal's colonial history, how its riches were built, and confront the racism and xenophobia that many foreigners, especially Brazilians, face today. Get ready for a powerful conversation, maybe even an uncomfortable one, but one that needs to be heard. Part 1: Portugal's Golden Age and Exploitation. Portugal is known for its glorious past, but what a lot of people forget or prefer to forget is that much of this wealth was acquired through exploitation, colonization, and the extraction of natural resources from other countries, often with no regard for the lives or cultures involved. For centuries, Portugal dominated and exploited various regions in Africa, Asia, and South America, draining resources like gold and precious stones while giving little or nothing in return. In Brazil, for instance, tons of gold were extracted and sent to Portugal, leaving destruction, violence, and inequality in their wake. How often do we hear stories about the heroes who explored the world, but never about the suffering left behind? For a long time, the gold and riches from other nations filled Portugal's coffers, yet this dark part of the story seems to remain a mere footnote in history books. It's as if everyone would rather remember the glorious discoveries without talking about the devastation caused. This colonial legacy is more than just history, it still lives on today in the form of prejudices, with the idea that Portugal civilized other nations. And that's where the hypocrisy lies. Part 2: The hypocrisy of modern xenophobia. Now we jump to the present, where many Portuguese, particularly older generations, look down on Brazilians, Africans, Asians as if they were somehow lesser. How many times has a Brazilian in Portugal heard something like, "If you're not happy here, go back to your country"? Or worse, been treated with disdain just for their accent, as if they're only here to take something from Portugal. It's ironic, almost cruel, to see this happening in a country that once took so much from others. Today, many of the essential jobs are held by foreigners. Many foreign workers fill construction jobs, work in tourism, hospitality and healthcare, and it's no coincidence that these sectors are driving Portugal's economy. But despite all this, the stigma persists. Foreigners are seen as threats or intruders. There's a thin line, a line many choose not to cross, between national pride and prejudice, showing up in daily life, in small gestures, in sidelong glances, in whispered words. It's easy to ignore how much these people contribute, but impossible to ignore the prejudice they face. Can those who ignore their own privileges, while living off wealth built by others, really accuse those who arrive here of not being worth it? Part 3: Racism and Superiority Complex. Racism and a sense of superiority exist in many places, and Portugal, unfortunately, is no exception. To this day, some look at immigrants as second-class citizens, as if their contributions and efforts are somehow less valuable. This colonial mindset seems to have survived the centuries, with the notion that the Portuguese are superior, while foreigners are intruders or freeloaders. This type of thinking isn't limited to isolated moments. It appears in institutions, in immigration policies, in the way many foreigners are treated when they look for work or try to rent an apartment. How often do we hear stories of Brazilians and Africans treated with suspicion? The truth is, many of these foreigners come here to work hard, doing whatever it takes to provide a better life for themselves and their families. They're not here to take anything. On the contrary, they add value and contribute to Portugal's growth. The irony is bitter. A country that once exploited the resources and cultures of others and owes much of its development to that exploitation now sees foreigners as a threat to its way of life. Do the average Portuguese really understand their own history? Part 4: Economic Reality: Who keeps Portugal moving? What many refuse to acknowledge is that Portugal today depends on foreigners. Without immigrants, many sectors simply wouldn't function. Tourism, one of the country's largest sources of income, is sustained by workers from all over the world. The construction, cleaning, healthcare, and service sectors are filled primarily by immigrants who often take on jobs that many Portuguese don't want. So, where is the recognition? Where is the respect for those who are literally carrying the weight of essential services? Instead, they face prejudice, are undervalued, and are treated as if they are somehow less than. Meanwhile, Portugal continues to benefit from the work, creativity, and determination of these foreigners without whom, frankly, the economy wouldn't survive. Time to end the hypocrisy. The truth is that prejudice, racism, and xenophobia are issues Portugal needs to confront. History cannot be ignored, and the contribution of immigrants should not be dismissed. It's time for Portugal, and for each of us to ask, are we ready to acknowledge the value of foreigners to end the prejudices and hypocrisy? Maybe the issue isn't that foreigners aren't worth it, but that many still refuse to see just how much they have already contributed and continue to contribute. And you? What do you think? It's time to speak out about the truth behind prejudice and the historical exploitation that echoes into the present. This is our invitation. Comment, share your experience, and help bring this reflection to more people. Let's end the prejudice, not against those who are here to help build a better country,